I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning and welcome to the challenge. As always, first and foremost, we like to thank God for the opportunity and thank you, the viewers, for tuning in. We want to talk this morning more about charter revision, but we've asked Attorney Stephen Mednick to come in and talk to us specifically about what happens when charter revision is either passed or not passed, and quite frankly, how charter revision, when it comes to being on this ballot, got to be, reduced to three questions, and why those three questions are in my mind, and I think in the mind of a lot of voters, will be so convoluted. I'm honestly hoping that Attorney Mednick can give us the clarification that we're hoping for, and that you need and I need to make a decision about whether or not to support or not to support these questions that are on the ballot that our community is facing. Good morning, Attorney Mednick.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Listen, I'm so glad that you decided to come by and be with us on the challenge. This is a challenge, quite frankly, to me, and it sort of epitomizes why, I like doing this kind of show. Grassroots TV, man, we want to get our message to the community from people within the community. And so we like to deal directly with the source. We had Ken Green on with us early, the chairman of Charter Revision, a beloved person within the community, and quite frankly, Ken gave us a lot of good stuff, but we need to have him back. But we need you, Attorney Mednick, to help us to understand this legal morass.
Well, I don't think in the Jewish faith, we have the Old Testament, and then you have the Talmud, which is the interpretation of the Old Testament.
Amen.
Fortunately, I don't think we need to interpret that much as to create a Talmud. I think that the questions are, two of them are pretty straightforward.
Okay. Which two?
The second and third questions.
Okay, good.
The one dealing with the
with
campaign financing, it's pretty clear.
I agree.
What is required there. The issue of the registrar of voters is fairly straightforward.
Sure.
There's been a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misstatements about what it means, but it's a fairly straightforward question. If you look at it and you look at the sections in the charter, you'll see that it's a pretty simple question.
Sure.
The first is an omnibus question. The first is a kitchen sink kind of question that includes just about all the other changes they made.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a comprehensive charter revision, but there were some significant things that were done. And I don't think anything controversial in them, but be happy to talk to you about them.
Yeah.
But legally, the way the questions get devised is commissions very often make recommendations to the legislative body, the city council.
I got you.
But it's the city council's obligation to create the questions, and they created the three questions.
Okay.
So
okay.
It was not something discussed at the commission level.
Yeah. Can you, from a legal perspective and from a an experienced attorney perspective, can you understand why? I mean, why would they add the mayor, the treasurer, ethics, audit, the Board of Education selections, all of those things into one question? It would seem to me that, unless somebody's deliberately trying to confuse me, that you're not looking for me to vote yes in that instance.
Well, it's a difficult issue. If you take a look at the Secretary of State's website, you can find all the ballot questions that go on throughout the state of Connecticut every year, whether they're budget ballot, whether they're charter revision. I have done comprehensive charter revisions in every major city in the state of Connecticut with the exception of Stamford. So every city I've done one. When you do a comprehensive charter revision, as we did in 2002 here in Hartford, you can't possibly have a question for every item that is in the charter because you have 25, 30, 40 questions. And you barely get the interest of the voter in the issue when you have 2 questions or 1 question or 3 questions. It's incumbent upon those communities, and Hartford did it this time, to create what they call an explanatory text. It's up to the city to educate the voters, and I know that they did an explanatory text. I don't know how it's been distributed in Hartford. I've not advised them on that, but I do know that an explanatory text has been sent out. In communities where I play an active role, we try to get them in libraries, in schools, in bodegas, any place where bus stops, any place where people congregate. You want to post the nonpartisan explanatory text because sometimes you do have a comprehensive question and you can't avoid the comprehensive question. So I don't look at it as a disingenuous attempt to obscure the issues in there. I think it is the council had to make a judgment that we had 10 or 12 issues, and there was no way we could put all 12 issues, delineate the 12 issues on the ballot without confusing the public even more, probably.
Yeah, but it would also seem to me that in the interest of the citizens, knowing what the demographics are and what the census data says about the citizens who are participating in the process, that they would try to make it as simple, if you will, as possible, so that they wouldn't be misled, if you will, about one item versus the other one, and the connection, quite frankly, between offices, if you will, and salaries and responsibility. And it would seem to me that the responsibilities of the audit commission, if you will, and of the ethics commission and the board of education, all being on this one particular question on the ballot, may or may not be directly connected. I mean, that's the way it would appear to me. Now, I won't say that I'm the sharpest tool in the shed, but I can't imagine myself supporting something that forces me to look at all those different things in one shot.
I hear you.
Okay.
But I think you're sharp. You're a very sharp man, and I think you can read the explanatory text.
All right.
I think the explanatory text. Now, I did not write this explanatory text, but the explanatory text does go through every issue in a relatively short, straightforward way.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to accomplish with an explanatory text, and particularly when you have an omnibus question, one question that covers a lot of different areas.
Right.
You want to have a really pithy and direct explanatory text.
Right.
It exists. I would hope that it'd be on a website somewhere. I think if you contact the town clerk's office would have it, and people should definitely get it. It will be posted at every polling place. I know that people want to get in and out of the polling place, but the explanatory text would be there, and particularly on question 1, if it takes 3 minutes to read it, 5 minutes to read it, it's probably worth reading. I would have hoped that there'd be more discourse. I'm not here in the Hartford community, so I don't know what is happening politically. But in a lot of my communities, I always recommend to charter commissions and councils when we're going through this is that once you get through it, the work isn't done when the council votes it out and sends it to the ballot. It would seem to me that the people who are involved should put together a political action committee, get out to the neighborhoods, the various neighborhood community organizations, and PTAs, PTOs, and other community organizations, and I don't know, I can't speak for what's going on in Hartford.
Of course, no, and that is an issue for us, and I think that's an issue in terms of deciding whether or not to come to the polls to vote on this, or not, because of whatever impact it may or may not have on what people are trying to do in Hartford. But these are operating instructions.
That's exactly
for the city itself. So
I call it the Constitution.
Well,
it is the local Constitution.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Well, I think that's a very, very succinct way of putting it.
Yeah.
But question 2, campaign finance, whether or not that's something that we ought to embrace as a part of our political process. Question number 2, tell us specifically, if you can, legally what happens with that particular question?
If question number 2 is adopted,
Mm-hmm.
the City Council of the City of Hartford would be mandated before July 1 of next year, before July 1 of 2014,
Mm-hmm.
to propose a public financing plan for the elections of mayor, treasurer, and city council. And they would be proposing it to the State Elections Enforcement Commission under legislation that allows the creation of pilots. So the commission was not directive. The commission didn't establish a standard how much candidates should be reimbursed. It would be up to the city council to study that,
Right.
determine fiscal impact
Right.
that it would have, and to come up with the best plan it can, and then present it to the State Elections Enforcement Commission. City council doesn't make the final decision. They make a proposal. If the proposal is rejected, it's over. And the provision goes away. It's a proposal that mandates that they do this before July 1 of 2014. If it's not approved by the State Elections Enforcement Commission, then it goes away. If it is approved, then the city adopts an ordinance that basically effectuates whatever plan it was that the city council adopted. So that city council plan has to go through public hearing, and there would be public input, and people would have an opportunity to know what the consequences are financially for the community or ethically for the community, however they want to approach.
So can
that
I
issue.
can I say, if you will, essentially that question number 2 on the ballot just calls for developing a process to engage in the action of campaign finance?
Well, it's more than that. It requires the council to go through a process, the public hearing process, in terms of creating an outcome at the city council, but it requires them to do it, mandates that they do it, and mandates that they do it before July 1 of 2014.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it will happen because it has to then go through the State Elections Enforcement Commission.
Right.
They're the ones who make the decision after the city proposes a campaign finance mechanism. They're the ones who make the final decision.
Even if the citizens vote yes to this question on the ballot, that does not mean, and I think the chairman, he made that very clear to us, even though they may vote yes to this on the ballot, that does not mean that it in fact will happen.
That's exactly right. It just mandates that the council evaluate it and propose something to the state.
Okay.
And so, again, there's plenty of opportunity for the public in that context to participate in the creation of that proposal to the state of Connecticut.
I couldn't wait to get to this question, Attorney Mednick. Number 3 on the ballot.
Yes.
You know, everybody that I know of that, you know, talks about things happening politically in the community, you know, is wondering what happens to our registrar's office and what this charter revision has done to the registrar's office. And in some cases, they're deflecting it. Some of the comments say that, you know, they've lumped all of this stuff into question 1 about changing of salaries to cost of living and all that kind of stuff. They're deflecting it and saying, you know, how is it that they can be doing these things for treasurer and mayor and all this other stuff, and the registrar's office is being kicked to the curb, if you will.
Well,
and they are, you know, they're on their way out, and that we don't need the registrars, and we don't need, you know, to have it be an elected position. What legally is happening in question 3?
What's legally happening is in 2002, the voters of the city of Hartford approved a provision that is in the current charter that permits the city to move from an elected registrar office and office of constables. We have constables in the city of Hartford.
Okay.
If the state law permits them to not be elected, but it permits it to be appointed currently without any change, if you vote down every item in the charter revision next Tuesday, that will still remain the law of the city of Hartford through the city charter.
Okay.
All they're doing this time and proposing this time are 2 things. One, the charter currently puts a limit of 2 registrars on. We have more than 2 registrars.
Yes.
Okay. And so it eliminates that and says as many registrars as may be permitted. Okay. So whatever it is, it is. So the number 2 is eliminated. The other thing they did is they put in the standards. What does a registrar of voters do? Charter's silent on that. And what the charter proposal says, basically is what the state law says, what the Registrar of Voters does, keeps track of voter lists, et cetera, and just that list. The other thing it does is it requires certification of a registrar of voters, in the same way that town clerks are certified.
Oh, wow.
And if there's a state,
that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. I mean, I would think that
you want somebody qualified.
Exactly.
You want somebody who knows what they're doing.
Exactly. I tried to read.
You don't want to just elect somebody who doesn't have the skill sets to, to make sure that the election is handled properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it does.
All right.
The one political issue that is involved in that question number 3, is if the state legislature allows the town to move away from an elected standard, and that's a big mountain to climb.
Right.
And 2, if the city of
Why
Hartford,
would they?
Why would they? There's a very strong lobby of
why
registrars,
would
so the likelihood of it coming to pass is very, very nil.
Yeah.
And 2, if they're permitted and Hartford agrees that they want to do it, what this provision does is it sets up the city council as the appointing authority for the appointed registrar. So it would seem to me the political question for a voter is, if you don't want the city council to be the appointing authority, they're currently the appointing authority for the town clerk, but if you don't want them to be the appointing authority, then you should probably be against that amendment. That's the one substantial political question. But appointment doesn't necessarily mean you appoint a political person. The city council could decide to exercise its appointment authority by creating an ordinance that sets up a competitive process for the hiring of a professional registrar. They could make a political appointment, but there's options there. But that's the only political question.
But with the approval of the general of the state, really.
Well, the state needs to change the law that would then permit a community to appoint a registrar. Right now you have to elect one by state law.
So also here again, they can make these recommendations, if you will, that the charter be changed, if you will, but it won't happen unless there's agreement with state statute.
Correct. State statute has to change.
So I'm just trying to dispel some of these myths, because I keep hearing them, and and I feel really, really partly responsible, in terms of getting the message to our community, making sure that it's clear. But it would seem to me that all of this suggesting that the registrar's office is about to be eliminated is just complete folly. It would seem
it's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah. Okay.
Or, as they would say down south, it's poppycock.
Well, I tell you, Attorney Mednick, our time goes by, unfortunately, too fast here on The Challenge. We're trying to meet the challenge. There are challenges in our community, and I'm sure you've served for quite a while yourself. As a public servant and as attorney, I'm sure a big part of what you do is to try to give this kind of clarification to people, so that people are clear on exactly what it is that they are participating in and what they're involved in. The challenge has come to you this morning to try to simplify what's happening in charter revision in the city of Hartford. Attorney Steve Mednick, who represents the Charter Revision Commission, has come, and we hope that he'll give us some more time. We need to talk a little bit more about these issues that are on the ballot, and why it is that we ought to be coming out and participating in this political process. I want to thank you.
Thank you.
For coming in this morning, and we're looking forward to a follow-up.
Great fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to The Challenge, and remember, be blessed.